Hey, I'm Fucci and welcome to Tiny Kitchen Big Taste. We have got a spud-tastic show for you today. We're making the best roasted potatoes ever. Now, I don't care if you're a man, a woman, a child, or an adult. These potatoes are gonna ruffle your feathers and knock your socks off. I know what you're thinking, but aren't they just a side of potatoes? No, they're that good. So tuck in those feathers and put those socks back on because it's time to bring it. So what you're gonna need are little red potatoes, rosemary, olive oil, salt and pepper, fresh parsley, pine nuts, and garlic. You'll also need a large mixing bowl, a baking sheet and silicone baking mat, garlic press, large spoon, and a sharp knife. I love trying out my new recipes on friends, and I've made this one 5 or 6 times over the past couple of months, and each time I do, people keep telling me how much they love it. My buddy Lee, for example, he's definitely not a foodie, so if he's gonna comment on something, you know it's got to be good. And when I made these for him, he said, "You've got to make these for your show." So when you try these and fall in love with them, be sure and thank Lee. The coolest thing about this recipe is that it is super fast and super easy to prepare. We start by cutting our little red potatoes in half. If you get a big potato like this, do not fret. Just cut it in half and then cut it in half again, making quarters. You just want to try to keep all the potatoes the same size. Now, I've tried this with white potatoes, I've tried it with russet potatoes, and I keep coming back to the red potatoes because I think they hold up better to the high heat of the roasting. They have a better texture. Next, we're going to press the garlic right into the bowl. We're going to mince up the rosemary. I like to take just the stalk like that and just peel it back. Mince it up real finely. Transfer that to our mixing bowl. Put a couple of larger leaves of rosemary in there as well. Next, we're going to roughly chop our parsley. I'm using Italian parsley. And then we'll just transfer this back to our plate. We're going to use this as a garnish later. Now, to the potatoes, we're going to add a pretty generous portion of olive oil. You want to make sure that they thoroughly coat the potatoes. Next, we'll add some pepper and some salt. And you want to use a little bit more salt than you might think. That'll help bring out the garlic and the rosemary flavor. We'll give this a mix, making sure that every last potato is covered with oil and rosemary. Then we're going to transfer our potatoes to our baking sheet. Now, don't worry about the pine nuts at this point. We're going to add those later. In the meantime, we're going to pop these in a 400-degree oven for about 30 to 45 minutes or until they're nice and golden brown. You want to flip them a couple of times, though, while you're baking them. So I've just taken these out of the oven. They're getting nice and golden brown. I'm going to test it with a fork. Just poke it in. If it comes out very easily, you know the potatoes are done. So now we just sprinkle on our pine nuts. So I have the pine nuts at the end because they have a tendency to burn, so watch them. We're gonna pop this back into the oven for about 5 minutes or until the nuts turn nice and golden brown, and then we'll plate it up. So check this out. The smell in here is incredible. Finish it off with a little bit of the roughly chopped parsley. The flavor on these potatoes are off the hook with the rosemary and garlic and the pine nuts. It's just incredible. I know you're going to want the recipe for it, and it's available on our website. You can also check us out at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And when you try these potatoes, please let us know about it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'm Fucci reminding you that if I can make the best roasted potatoes ever in a kitchen this tiny, you can make them in yours. We'll see you next time on Tiny Kitchen Big Taste. Best roasted potatoes ever. I love trying out my new recipe on... I love trying out my recipes on friends. That's it. Good night!